The Atlanta Braves bring in Tim Hyers to be their new hitting coach after he spent the last 3 years with the Rangers and helped them win a World Series in 2023. And before that, he helped the Boston Red Sox win a World Series. Can he do the same thing in Atlanta? What type of offensive philosophy will he bring to this team? We'll discuss all that on today's episode of Locked On Braves. So let's get into it.
You are Locked On Braves, your daily Atlanta Braves podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, and welcome back to Locked On Braves, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta, where we cover your favorite Atlanta sports teams each and every day. I'm your host, Jake Mastriani. You can follow me on social media at ShortstopBall. Check out the podcast there at LockedOn_Braves. Make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube. If you're new, hit that thumbs up button. Leave me a comment down below so you can help the show grow here, and others can join us at Locked On Braves. You're listening on the audio version. You can help out by leaving a 5-star review on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you so much to all the support that you give me here at Locked On Braves. I promise it truly does mean a ton to me. Every thumbs up, every like, every comment, it all means so much to me, and I really do appreciate the community that we built here at Locked On Braves. Today's episode, we're going to talk all about the new coaching hire, that is Tim Hyers, who the Braves have brought on to be their new hitting coach. We'll look at his resume, also talk about what type of philosophy he could be bringing to the team and whether or not I like the hire. We also got some awards to be handed out to Braves players today, so we'll talk about that later in the episode, get some of your comments and thoughts on the hiring as well. And World Series predictions are rolling in for those who are here alive, so looking forward to getting into that as the World Series will finally get underway on Friday night. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet, and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Just visit FanDuel.com to get started. Well, the news broke on Thursday afternoon. The Braves decided to hire former Rangers hitting coach Tim Hyers as their new hitting coach. And just to give you a little bit of background on Tim Hyers, I'm going to give you a lot of background here, and then we're going to get into what he's done in his previous stops, which is pretty impressive. And I'll just give you my initial thoughts overall. I'm about as excited as you can be about a new hitting coach hire. And look, I've said it on here before. I think hitting coaches, pitching coaches at the major league level certainly have an impact. To what level of impact do they have on major league players who, you know, a lot of these guys, especially hitters, they're going to go back to some old coaches that they've used in the past. There's not just one voice that is talking to these guys, but I do think that they have an impact. I'm just not one of those believers that it's a huge impact. So I'm still saying all that. I am excited about this hire. Maybe it is the new thing, but again, just digging into his background, watching some videos of him and talking about, you know, how he views hitting. Again, I think I'm as excited as I could possibly be about a new hitting coach hire. Now let's start with the background for Tim Hyers. You're going to get tired of hearing me say hire and hires a lot on this episode. He was born in Atlanta, went to Newton High School in Covington, Georgia. For his playing career, he was the second-round pick by the Blue Jays in 1990 after spending 4 years in the Blue Jays farm system without getting above Double-A. The Padres took him in the 1993 Rule 5 draft. His big league debut came on April 4th, 1994. Unfortunately, his debut came in a strike season. But interestingly enough, his debut was against the Atlanta Braves. He spent time with the Marlins and Tigers as well in his big league career, finishing with a 217, 298, 287 slash line through 133 games at the big league level with just 2 home runs. Now, you look at that stat line for your new hitting coach, and it doesn't probably bring a lot of optimism. But that's not always the case. Not every great hitting coach, not every great manager was a great player. And in fact, I think you see most often than not, many great managers weren't great players. So again, don't look too much into that, and don't look too much into his style of hitting either, with just 2 home runs in 133 big league games. Now, in 10 minor league seasons, Tim Hyers slashed 261, 325, 365 with 49 home runs in 946 games. He finally hung it up after the 1999 season, but in 1993 at Double-A, he slashed 306, 375, 390 over 140 games in what was probably his best season at any level. And he got off to a rough start. He coming out of high school, first couple of seasons at the minor league level when he was with the Blue Jays were pretty rough. But after that, he really became a good hitter at the minor league level. Again, that never quite translated to the big leagues. But in 1993 at Double-A, like I said, 306, 375, 390 is really good. And then in 1997 and 1998, he had an OPS over 760 at the Triple-A level, playing more than 100 games in each of those seasons. So again, he turned into a pretty solid hitter at the upper minor league level. He just couldn't translate that into the big leagues, couldn't quite get that full-time opportunity at the big leagues. In that 1999 season, before he did decide to hang it up, he played in 58 games for the Marlins, /222 with a 333 on base, 370 slug, with an incredible walk rate of 14.6% and a minuscule K rate of just 11.5%. So again, you can't look too much into the playing career of a hitting coach, and the game has changed drastically over the last 20-something years since he was last a player. But certainly it gives me some encouragement and hope that it was a guy that did take his walks, that didn't strike out a lot, and that at least at the minor league level hit for average, because I think that's what a lot of us want, along obviously with the power in there. Now, his coaching career, this is all coming from Baseball Reference. His first job as a coach came in 2002 for the Tigers A-ball team, the West Michigan Whitecaps, where he was a hitting instructor and helped them win their regular season title. That same year, he became the owner and operator of Hyers Sports Training in Atlanta, Georgia, and stepped away from coaching for a bit, picked things back up in 2009 when he became a Georgia area scout for the Boston Red Sox. And then in 2013, he became their minor league hitting coordinator. In 2016, the Dodgers hired him as their assistant hitting coach. Then the Red Sox brought him back for the 2018 through 2021 seasons, his first full-time gig as a hitting coach at the major league level. He helped them win a World Series in 2018. And then from 2022 until this past season, he was the hitting coach for the Texas Rangers, winning a World Series with them in 2023. So he spent 7 years as a hitting coach. He's won 2 World Series. And we're going to talk about this in a minute. He has put up his offenses rather, have put up some impressive numbers during that time, which gives me a lot of optimism for this Braves team and this Braves offense going forward. We'll discuss more about those numbers and what to expect from Tim Hyers next. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, make sure to go over to FanDuel.com where you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet at FanDuel.com. You can also look over there right now for World Series odds. I think I said yesterday, or I know I said yesterday, that the Yankees were favored in the game on Friday. That has completely swapped, where the Dodgers are a -1.5 favorite on Friday night, and they are the favorite overall to win the World Series at -122. They have daily specials on there for the World Series, head-to-head specials, player specials, awards, playoff leaders, all of that. And if you've already moved on to 2025, you want to see the odds for next season, the Braves have the 3rd best odds at +800, behind just the Dodgers and Yankees to win the World Series next year. You can check all that out at FanDuel.com. Also, make sure you visit FanDuel.com/playsafe for tools and resources to help you stay in control of the way that you play. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Thank you for making Locked On Braves your first listen of the day. Go check out Locked On MLB for your second listen. We're solely getting you ready for the postseason starting on Friday night, and everything happening around Major League Baseball. You can listen to that on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It is your team every day. We will have one more podcast here for the week, planning to do an afternoon mailbag episode on Friday to free up my Friday night. So that'll probably be happening around 2-3 p.m. Central on Friday afternoon if everything goes according to plan. If not, we'll do it on Friday night. But look out for that. Again, go ahead and submit your questions. I already sent out the post from my social media account on X at @shortstopball. Respond to that post with your question to be answered on Friday's mailbag episode. Now let's take a look at the numbers for Tim Hyers' offenses over the past 7 years that he's been a hitting coach with the Red Sox. And I think it's important to look at the year before he joined the team. In 2017, the Red Sox were 10th in runs, 27th in home runs, 8th in walks. It had the 8th fewest strikeouts and were 13th in average. So the Red Sox were already a pretty good offense. But in 2018, they were first in runs, 9th in home runs. So they went from 27th to 9th in home runs. They still remained top 10 in walks, and they had the 5th fewest strikeouts, and they were first in batting average. They went from 13th in batting average to first in batting average. In fact, all 4 years that he was with the Red Sox, they finished first, third, and third in batting average. And if you are somebody like me who really wants to see the Braves get back to, hitting for average, getting on base, that is very encouraging. All his years with the Red Sox were really, really good. They finished first in runs, 4th in runs, 11th in runs, 5th in runs. They were top 12 in home runs all of those years as well. They did fall back on the walks a little bit in his last 2 years, but they still remained really good at not striking out. So again, all of his offenses in Boston were good. Let me pause and say this too. I talked earlier about how, what type of impact can a hitting coach really have? And I think that's up for debate. I certainly think they have some impact, even maybe a good bit of impact. It's all dependent. And you will hear any coach say this. It's all dependent on the players around them. He had some really good players in Boston, including, Mookie Betts, young Rafael Devers. He had some really good players around him in Boston that are certainly going to help. But again, you can't ignore the numbers and what they did while they were there and helping those hitters reach their potential. But again, players play the game, and that is going to be the ultimate outcome for any offense, for any team, if players are able to play to their abilities. But there is an impact on the coaching staff to help them reach that. Now, going to the Rangers, and then again, let's talk about before he got there. So in 2021, the Rangers were 28th in runs scored, 26th in home runs, 29th in walks. They did have the 10th fewest strikeouts, but they were 29th in average. So the Rangers were a bottom 5 offense in baseball before Tim Hyers showed up. Now, as I just got through saying, going into that 2022 season when he became the hitting coach for the Rangers, that was the offseason that the Rangers went out, spent a lot of money. They acquired Marcus Semien. They acquired Corey Seager. Getting good players is the best way to help you improve your offense. It's one of those things that I don't think has to be said out loud, should not have to be said out loud, but I think it's important that I say it out loud. Having good players is far more important than having a good hitting coach. But again, he did help elevate that team and elevate that offense. They went from 28th in runs scored to 12th in runs scored. They went from 26th in home runs to 8th in home runs. They went from the 10th, they had the 10th fewest strikeouts. They did strike out more, 7th fewest strikeouts, but they went from 29th in average to 18th in average. So they went from being a bottom 5 offense to a top 15 offense the year that Tim Hyers took over. But again, that also was a lot of good players that came to the Rangers that year. Now in 2023, the year that they won the World Series, their offense was just ridiculous. It was the top 5 offense. It was right up there with the Dodgers and the Braves. They were 3rd in runs scored. They were 3rd in home runs. They were 3rd in walks. They had the 17th most strikeouts, however you want to look at that. And they were 2nd in average. So again, they were the 3rd best offense in baseball in 2023, right there with the Dodgers and the Braves. Now, 2024, things went awry. 18th in runs scored, 18th in home runs, 15th in walks. They had the 8th fewest strikeouts, but just 21st in batting average. That was probably his worst year as a hitting coach. Interesting, right? At the same time that Kevin Seitzer maybe had one of his roughest years as a hitting coach. The same time that a lot of offenses had a rough go of it, especially offenses that really rely on the home run ball. So again, I don't want to keep beating a dead horse in this, but there was a lot of weird things going on in 2024 offensively. But besides that, every other year that Tim Hyers has been a hitting coach, it's been a top 10, top 12 offense, other than this last year with the Rangers. So he has had a lot of success wherever he's gone. He's had a lot of good players wherever he's gone. He's going to have a lot of good players with this Braves team. You look at Hyers in 7 seasons as an MLB hitting coach, his teams had finished top 3 in batting average 5 times, including all 4 years in Boston. So again, his teams hit for average. That's what you love to see. In 6 of the 7 years that he's been a hitting coach, his offenses have finished top 12 in both runs and home runs. And again, that's last year being the only year that didn't happen with him as a hitting coach. And you saw dramatic improvement in a lot of areas when he was with the Rangers for 3 years, especially in those first 2 years he took over after them being a bottom 5 offense. So again, hard to really judge and quantify how good a hitting coach is, or a pitching coach for that matter, but just looking at the numbers, he has put together some really good offenses. I watched a lot of videos on Tim Hyers, kind of trying to get his thoughts and his hitting philosophy, to share that with you. With what I'll finally give as my thoughts is what I think he'll bring over. So here's some of my takeaways from what I heard from, again, some of the interviews with Tim Hyers. When talking about using technology for hitting, he talked about using all this data and technology that we have for pitchers and using it to game plan against them, knowing the features of a pitch and how you can counteract that. I never really have heard that before. And so I thought that was something that was really interesting and really smart. You have all this technology, all this data to give you the pitch profile of a pitcher and a certain pitch that they throw. You should be able to use that as a hitter to know, okay, his two-seamer moves this way, his slider moves this way, his curveball breaks like this, it comes out of this arm slot, from this release angle. All of those things can be and should be used to help a hitter prepare. So I loved hearing that, because I don't hear that a lot from anyone. So I thought that was really interesting. Another thing that he talked about that I really liked, because it's something that I think Braves hitters really struggled with this past year, is the mental side of the game. He talked a lot about simplifying each at bat for a player, and also knowing what each player is like. And that's very important. And that's very key when trying to help, 13 hitters. You're going to see more than that come throughout the year, but trying to help everybody on the roster to make adjustments to reach their potential. Everybody is different. And I hope that is how he views this going forward. I hope that's how the Braves view this going forward. I feel like the Braves, no matter what, in 2023, they tried to make every player on this roster one way. You can't do that. Not every player can have success the same way, and you have to play to their strengths. And I think the Braves have tried to take this approach that we don't care who you are. You're going to come over here and you're going to slug. You're going to pull the baseball. You are going to get lift on the baseball. Not everybody is built and designed to hit that way. And so you have to be able to adjust. You have to be able to adjust for each different type of hitter. So again, I liked hearing that from him, and I hope that the Braves let him do that. A phrase that he used, that something else I haven't really heard, but I think is very on point. They were talking a lot about the new metric this year with bat speed, and how, guys like Luis Ariz have very slow bat speeds, but yet many people consider him to be the best hitter, at least average wise, in all of baseball. And he used the phrase barrel accuracy, that again, I have not heard that used that way or heard it phrased like that. We talk about barrel percentage, barrel rate on here a lot, especially if we've been recapping previous seasons for players. And it's a very important stat for me. You get to barrels, you're more likely going to get good contact. And he used the term barrel accuracy. And the way that I took it as, it's bat speed, it can be important, yes, but can you control the barrel? Can you control putting the baseball on the right part of the barrel? Because if you do that consistently enough, that's going to lead to more hits. And you talk about a guy like Luis Ariz. Yeah, he's not swinging very fast, and he's not making big contact. And people who don't like average exit velocity are going to like me saying this. He doesn't have big average exit velocity numbers, but he can control the barrel to put the baseball on the good part of the bat, that he can make good contact to rack up the hits. And so I thought that was very interesting that he said that. Again, I never heard it phrased that way. A few times in the couple of different interviews that I listened to, he mentioned veteran hitters helping out young hitters. And I think that's key, as well as creating that environment where you can lean on some veterans that you have to be able to help out the young hitters, because look, you need a lot of voices. You need help, from a lot of different guys. You've heard that already in this Braves team. Marcell Ozuna, you've heard numerous stories about him helping out some of the young hitters. So I think that's key as well, is knowing when to step back and let some of the veterans on the team, speak up and help other guys. I think that's very important, knowing when to kind of swallow your pride and let some other guys on the team maybe try to approach things a different way and just to be a different voice. Here's a quote from one of the interviews that I heard with him. You can't just go up there and try to launch the baseball every single time. I don't know how the Braves are going to feel about that. I'm imagining he didn't say that in his interview, or he might not have gotten hired, because that has been the Braves' philosophy, is go up there, swing for the fences, get that launch angle, pull it, go for the home run. And so to hear him say that, it's kind of refreshing that, look, you want home runs. I've said this over and over. Hitting home runs is the most efficient way to score. It is. I want a team full of hitters that are going to hit 20, 30, 40 home runs. But it's not the only way to hit. And the Braves have just developed this philosophy of everybody has to do things this one way. Not everybody does. And so again, some of this could be coach speak, but I thought that was very interesting, saying you can't just go up there and try to launch the baseball every single time. You can do it sometimes, but not every single time, just when the situation calls for it. When coming to Texas, he talked about wanting to have a more fluid offense that can make adjustments. This was so key. Again, coming off the year that the Braves just had, he said he wanted to have a more fluid offense that can make adjustments, that can read what pitchers are trying to do to them, and can read defensive alignments. Look, I'm not saying that Kevin Seitzer was not teaching these things, but it's what we've all kind of been wanting, because we saw no adjustments from the hitters this past year. It would just continue to be the same thing all year long, and there was no adjustments, and that's ultimately why I think that Kevin Seitzer got let go. And again, it's not that he wasn't saying these things. Chipper Jones himself said that he believes Seitzer was saying these things. It's just sometimes it doesn't stick. And so you're getting a new voice in there. But I love hearing that he believes in an offense that can be fluid, that can adjust, that can, read what pitchers are doing and game plan off of that, can see what defenses are doing, and knowing if they're going to play the second baseman up the middle, shoot the ball through that hole as a right-handed hitter. And so being able to do those little things like that, I think, are very important and critical for an offense, and something that I think hitting coaches should be emphasizing. Last quote that I have here from Tim Hyers, talking about his time at Texas. He says, "We got to slug and we got to get on base." That's exactly what Chipper was talking about, but he said that the Braves aren't focusing enough on the on base. And so, Hyers still believes in that philosophy of slug, on base. And that is how you score the most runs. And he said, continuing the quote, he said, that's the ultimate goal. There's ways to do that. We have to have prepared hitters. We've got to do our homework. We've got to have a good game plan, and we've got to be disciplined. And again, that's all great coach talk, coach speak, but that's what you want. And that's what we're asking for. And Braves just had one down year offensively. It's not like, they've been a terrible offense for so long, but in the postseason, we haven't really seen that. And I think that's what a lot of us are wanting. We're wanting to see an offensive approach where there is a game plan, where there is discipline at the plate, where you can be multidimensional. And even as good as this offense has been at times over the year, a lot of it has been one-dimensional. And so again, we'll see what happens, and we'll see, what he's able to get accomplished. But to see that he has those thoughts and he's at least saying those things, I think is very encouraging for me as a fan. Now, my final kind of thoughts on this and takeaways, I think Kevin Seitzer is a great hitting coach. Ultimately, I think players play, and especially at this level. But clearly, coaches do have a significant impact on helping players become better. Look, Kevin Seitzer just put together one of the most historic offenses of all time, not just for the Braves, of all time. Do I think he suddenly just forgot how to teach coaching or how to coach hitting? Sorry. Do I suddenly think that he forgot how to coach hitting? No. I think it was just time for a different voice. And Tim Hyers certainly seems like a really good voice. He's been great everywhere that he's gone. He's saying all the things that I love. to see and hear out of a hitting coach, being more dimensional at the plate, being prepared, being disciplined, but having that slug, having that on-base mentality. That's all the things that we want out of our offense. So again, can he get that implemented? Can he, teach that to this group of hitters? His success, his history says that he can. And again, I cannot wait to see what he does in Atlanta. And look, as excited as you can be about a hitting coach, that's how excited I am about seeing Tim Hyers. I didn't know him before, but again, I've watched a lot of video on him today, looking at the numbers of his offenses. I don't know if the Braves could have gotten anybody else better for the job than Tim Hyers. So I can't wait to see what he will do. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. You like this move? Do you think he's going to be good? Do you think it matters at all? Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. That wasn't the only news from Thursday, though. The Braves had a couple of players who won awards. We'll discuss that here next. You shouldn't have to worry when you buy tickets to your next big event, and you don't when you use Gametime. Gametime is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. And Gametime is now an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets even faster and easier. They have killer last-minute deals, all in prices that you can toggle on right there in the same screen. View your seat. Get a view of your seat right there in the app. It's really just a 2-click process. It's that easy. I use them anytime I go to a Braves game now, and I'm constantly watching when I know I'm thinking about going to a game, seeing what those prices are. And last time I got tickets down in the 100 section. I don't ever shop down there, and I got them for a really good price. And you can too when you use Gametime to go to your next Braves game or any event in your area. All in prices. Again, you see that up front right there. You know what you're paying. Buy tickets in seconds, and you get the Gametime guarantee, which means you'll get the best price. You find tickets in the same section in a row for less. Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Use our code LOCKEDONMLB to get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account. Redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. So the hiring of Tim Hyers was not the only news on Thursday. You also had Chris Sale winning the first of what could be many offseason awards for him, as he was Sporting News NL Comeback Player of the Year. And that seemed like a pretty no-brainer for Chris Sale, who was pretty much written off after the past 4 years and came back and is likely going to win the NL Cy Young. Matt Olson won the 2024 Fielding Bible Award for first base. It's the 4th of his career. Only person with more is Albert Pujols that had 5. Now, it is his first since joining Atlanta. He's also a Gold Glove finalist. For many Braves fans, we heard about the Gold Glove of Matt Olson coming over. Didn't always look that way at times. He was much better this year, and you could see it with your eyes. It was backed up with the metrics, as he had 13 defensive runs saved. I thought he was much improved. Again, I can't watch every first baseman across the league to tell you whether or not I think he was the best, but you could certainly notice a big improvement in Matt Olson's defensively this year compared to his first 2 seasons in Atlanta. Now, while Spencer Schwellenbach didn't qualify for the Gold Glove, he was a finalist for the Fielding Bible Award. Tanner Bybee ultimately won it, but Spencer Schwellenbach is going to win it at some point in the future, and he's likely going to win several Gold Gloves. You got a shortstop on the pitcher's mound. He made several great plays this past year, so he's got many Gold Gloves in his future. Chris Sale is also a Gold Glove finalist for this season, so we'll see if he can rack that up again. Going to be a lot of awards happening for Chris Sale this offseason. Looking forward to all of that. A little bit of World Series news here again, as that is finally going to get underway on a Friday night. If you haven't forgotten about it, the World Series is still happening or going to happen. Ozzy will be a correspondent at the World Series, connecting with friends for in-game interviews and talking to celebrities in attendance. So that could be pretty interesting if you were kind of tuned out for baseball season and really weren't interested in this World Series. Might be worth tuning in to see, what Ozzy does, what Ozzy has to say, who he talks to. That could be pretty interesting right there. I think it's notable that they picked Ozzy Albies to do that. I think that tells you that he's we all know that he's a likable guy around the league. So can't wait to see what Ozzy does in that role during the World Series. Can't wait to see the World Series. It feels like it's been forever. It's been almost a week that they've taken off to play. It is going to be a big matchup, 2 superstars. I'm just excited to see than play. And be honest, I'm excited to see it get over with so we can get into the offseason, because I cannot wait for spring training to get here. It could be a long offseason, but I think we're going to have a lot to talk about. Again, thanks so much for joining me. Braves Thrills, Dogs Fan, Jeff Berry, Z Corp, Protect PR, Brian Sturgis, Charles Playmel in here as well. Thank you all for joining me on today's episode. I really do appreciate it. Warren 3001 says, I agree, Jake. Looks like a really good hire. Hometown guy, great credentials and success. Maybe he can help Acuna get reacclimated to MLB hitting. Certainly could be. Z Corp says Hyers will oversee a lineup that will benefit from the turn of 2023 NL MVP Ronald Acuna Jr. So yeah, he's been in some great situations in the past, both with the Red Sox and with the Rangers. Biased, obviously, but I think he's stepping into the best situation yet, because this offense is going to be hungry. Hopefully they're going to be healthy, and I think we're going to see this offense get back on track. I think Hyers will be a big part of that. So can't wait to see what he will do. Thank you all again for joining. Thanks for making Locked On Braves your first listen of the day. Go check out Locked On MLB for your second listen. Make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube if you're new. Hit that thumbs up button. Leave me a comment down below, and make sure that you rate, review, and subscribe to the Locked On Braves podcast wherever you get your podcast. And we will talk to you next time.